Thank y'all for coming tonight. Y'all doing all right?
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, no. Great to have you here. Great to have you here. To getting up to eat, you know, drink, sweet. I'm not taking any of that home. Take more before you go if there's any left. You're coming. I'm Dr. Matt Ritchie. You can use that table. Good. Mike Ford was supposed to do the introduction, but he's got a school board meeting, so I'll be the introduction. Bear with me. On behalf of Mike Ford, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to this event. We're here to talk about public service in an event that is part of the Whitburn Center and Wisconsin Alliance for Civic Trust, or WISAC event series. Where are my WISAC people? We need more whoop whoops. That might be the rule. If you're a WISAC fellow, give me a whoop whoop. All right, Keith, you can be all right. As you may or may not know, the Whitburn Center is an applied research center, dedicated to showing we can still govern in Wisconsin. WISAC is project, the house is project house. I wasn't deep, right? My goodness, I'm so glad it's. Let's get the quips out of the way early. What a time.
We were not supposed to do that all along?
I'm waiting for it. I'm just waiting, you guys. It's like a line.
He told me to do it.
I'm sure. WISAC is, I'm never gonna get through my introduction. Whitburn Center dedicated to reducing the threat of political violence, improving trust in elections, civic institutions, and ultimately one another. That's the first paragraph. We're not even halfway through. WISAC fits nearly in the broader Whitburn Center mission because government cannot meet the needs of those it serves without a foundation of trust. Building trust also requires professionals dedicated to the ideas of public service. This is why we're so proud that be kicking off the Flips Academy programming today. The Future Leaders in Public Service program, funded through a grant from Tommy Thompson Center, seeks to prepare the next generation of public service leaders in Wisconsin. This evening, we are pleased to host a panel of professionals working in public works and planning that will shed some light on how to build a career in public service. Maybe my four. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I would like to thank a few people before we get rolling. First, Whitburn Center, couldn't have done that without them. I'd also like to thank the Tommy Thompson Center for the money in helping us build this idea and recruit more students and build more trust with everyone else. I have to thank Cleveland because they are my favorite partner. And those dudes, it's fantastic. I want to thank Sarah says Hanson, our school director Paige, all her guidance and help would not have done without her. Lisa Lewis is running everything. Polly Lewis and Kelly Moran from Career Services, helping you find jobs after you graduate. It is right now. They're nodding. You all are going to be great.
Absolutely not.
I need to thank Mike Ford and Sam Larson for all their undying support and all their help with this. I want to thank Paul Winock and Mike Leader and Abby Schleffo and the WISAC. Thank you all for coming. Now, we're going to let these folks talk. Now, I'm a visual learner, so I've written the first question on the board. What I would like, your name. I will not say. Name, current position, where you work, outside agency, and what education or credentials you have. We're going to start with Diane.
Okay. So I'm Diane Rowe. I'm actually with a private consulting firm, engineering and architect firm, but we only work with local governments. And prior to joining the firm, I was in the public sector for 26-ish years. I started when I was 2.
Good light. We're not going to be too serious tonight. It's a long night for all.
Education and credentials. I took kind of an unusual path. My bachelor's degree is actually forest management. And then I got into community planning. And so then I took some coursework in planning and got AIC, American Institute of Certified Planners credential. And then I went back for my master's in public administration and at UW Oshkosh. And now I have my International City Management Association credentialed manager credentials.
So we have to.
Okay, so ICMA, CM, so that's it, that's me.
Brian Lemke with the city of Oshkosh. Kind of going through a transition. We'll just go with field operations manager. We're in the middle of a reorg. We kind of have 2 directors right now. New titles, director of public works operations. But we'll just go with field operations manager. So Kind of oversee the street sanitation central garage area for all of our operations for the city of Oshkosh. I've been in the public works business for about 20 years. I started out with the city of Appleton, worked there for about 10, moved to Oshkosh and was with the water utility, water distribution. Again, just with the 20 years, I do not have any extra college education. I worked my way through high school. I got a bunch of certificates for the water utility industry, water distribution certification. And that's yeah. Go.
I'm Dustin Kurok. I'm the engineering division manager and city engineer here at the city of Oshkosh. Went to school in Milwaukee for engineering, civil engineering degree. Graduated with an emphasis in structures. And time I came out was downturn in the economy. There was nothing being built, so it was tough kind of finding jobs. With a civil engineering degree, you're able to kind of be very broad on what you're doing. So I started actually my career with the city of Oshkosh shortly out of school and been there for over 15 years now. Worked my way up, started as an intern, civil engineer, principal civil engineer, engineering supervisor, and then my current role now. So I've kind of seen the whole gamut of what Oshkosh has to offer as far as construction projects from kind of start to finish. And to be in my role, I guess as a city engineer, I have to have a professional engineer's license. So as a part of the school and the credentials I got through the school and then testing after that, I have and still maintain my professional engineer license.
All right, James Robbie, as Ryan said, we're going through a transition. My role for the last 10 years has been the director of public works. That encompassed a lot, engineering. So Justin was a part of my team. Ryan in his prior role as in field operations manager was a part of my team. Also water, wastewater, the whole gamut. The department as a whole was around 150 people. So we are in the process of the reorganization. We're splitting it up, and Ryan is going to be a new department head over the operations side of that. I will be keeping the engineering, infrastructure, and utilities portion. I got my bachelor's of science in civil engineering from the University of Wisconsin Platteville. During college, I spent a couple summers as a summer intern working here in the Oshkosh Engineering Division. I spent 10 years in the private sector after graduation. Prior to rejoining the city of Oshkosh team. I have been an engineer, I've been a supervisor, and then into my department head role. I also am a professional engineer licensed in the state of Wisconsin. I also hold certification as a certified professional in erosion and sediment control. I think, does that about cover what we wanted, Matt?
That's good. No, that was outstanding.
Hi, my name is Kelly Nyforth. I'm the Director of Community Development and Assessment for the City of Neenah. I actually just started there just less than a year ago, and I used to work for the City of Oshkosh as their Community Development Director. So I know a lot of the faces up here and worked for many years with them. So I actually had quite a few internships. I went to UW La Crosse. Where I had my degree in public administration and geography. They didn't have a specific urban planning program. So started with doing a lot of internships, landed in Calumet County as an internship, which led as actually a full-time position. So I worked with Calumet County for about 6 years, came over to Oshkosh and now in the city of Neenah. So I've been working for a local unit of government for over 20 years now, and still really enjoying what I do in community development.
Hi, my name is Bobby Revelinski, pre-treatment coordinator for the city of Oshkosh. I started out, I got a 4-year bachelor's of science for waste management from University of Stevens Point. From there, I was an intern for the city of Brookfield at their wastewater treatment plant. Worked for the city of Manitowoc for 2 years, the wastewater treatment plant, and since then been working with the city of Oshkosh for 14 years. I was a operator, then a mechanic, and now industrial pre-treatment coordinator. Some of the certifications, pretty much just the water certification, top of which I think there's 10 subclasses in each one of the subclasses.
Jason Ellis, I'm the Utilities Operations Manager. I oversee the water and sewer utilities for the city. I've been with the city for 26 years. My career has progressed through operations. I was the pre-treatment coordinator. that position that Bobby holds now for about 10 years. And my current position for about 3.5, 4 years. Went to school at Michigan Technological University, got a bachelor's in environmental engineering. And other certifications, as Bobby just mentioned, for required for my position are the DNR op certs. So that's it.
Now, I don't know how hard you all have a hard time talking about yourself, but I hate talking about myself, and I think they all deserve a round of applause. Don't you feel better now? That was great. That was the first round, no problem. Jason, we're gonna start with you with the next fun question. What's your day-to-day like?
Well, every day,
Give me the real one.
every day I go in with a plan with what I'm gonna do, and that changes in the first 5 minutes. So first time the phone rings or I open up my email, but no, a typical day, lot of email communication, a lot of meetings. Majority of my position is facilitator, I would say, putting people together with the resources that they need to make our team successful. I do a lot of meeting with engineers, contractors, salespeople, and other city staff.
I will.
And some of the bigger things that take up my time, especially lately, are capital improvement projects. We have many very large, expensive projects that are going on both at the water plant and the wastewater plant for the next 3 to 5 years. So along with that, into projects, operational budgeting, planning, and it just advancing city policies, whether they're HR, safety, or excuse me, municipal codes.
Yeah, and I guess my day-to-day there is just filing reports. I work with the DNR, so I have 27 industries underneath our program. And from Amcor, Oshkosh truck, look around at Oshkosh. So filing, making sure they're doing the right thing, they're discharging the correct amounts. And then going with hauled waste, I also in charge of the hauled waste program. So any septic haulers, anything like that. Hydrogen sulfide monitors, we monitor around the city for hydrogen sulfide, so I go out, pull the monitors, take data off of that. Other than that, just kind of help run the wastewater treatment plant as needed, if needed.
Forgot the biggest part, Bobby,
Yeah.
protecting the environment.
For community development, we have 4 different divisions. We have economic development, inspections, assessment, and planning and zoning. So every day is different. We work with the public quite a bit. That's somebody that wants to come do work, on their house, from something, maybe a big business that's expanding. So there's always different issues and, opportunities out there that we need to work on. Meeting with a lot of different departments to talk about big projects. We work across all different departments with, public works and engineering and planning to come up with different, solutions for, maybe issues that businesses are having. Work with a lot of different community partners on, if it's not homelessness, if it's downtown initiatives or, how to beautify the city. So work with a lot of folks just even outside of the city. And then also even a lot of providing, direction to staff. You have quite a few managers up here, so that actually takes up a lot of time. Just giving them direction, and if you have a new, employee, trying to really help them along the way, and answering a lot of emails and phone calls and writing a lot of memos.
Like Jason said, day to day is, you never really do know. You come in with a plan as you get up in the morning of, okay, I got to get this done or I get that done. And usually when I go home at night, I still haven't gotten to those things. It is, as a manager, like Kelly said, it's a lot of helping staff out. One of the big things in my role as a department head is looking at the very long range things. I am not looking at the day to day so much of the department or even the week to week or the month to month. I am looking out several years at where we're going and what we're going to be accomplishing. One of the things that Justin and I work a lot together on is the city's capital improvement program as it relates to street and utility reconstruction out in the right of way. We run a 10-year plan, so we're constantly looking out at least 10 years planning for what is going to be done and how we're going to fit all the puzzle pieces together. I think one of the things that's taken a lot of time and effort for me since I've been in this role the last 10 years is employee relations, cultural change, if you will. We had some of our divisions that were very old school, and some of the leaders that were in them had come up through the ranks and they were used to how things were done 30 or 40 years ago, which is not how things are done now. The way those leaders and managers were treating employees is not acceptable anymore. And as you know, I spent a lot of time working with our human resources and others to facilitate a very significant change. And Ryan was a huge part of that. He came in after I had to tell several people that they no longer fit this organization. And Ryan came in and picked up the pieces and brought that team together in a way that is just unbelievable to see now. So it's always looking at those things and listening, being available to staff. I think one of the things that I've told the entire department staff from day one is I don't want anybody in the department to feel like I'm that guy down at the end of the hall that they just can't come down and talk to. I want everybody to feel that if they got an issue that they're not getting anywhere in their divisions and they need to talk about it, they can come talk to me. One of the ways I've been doing that lately is by booking days where I am working at other buildings. You know, our department has 4 or 5 different facilities spread out across the city. So I make a conscious effort to work from these other buildings on a regular basis to see and interact with the people. And it really has helped make a lot of connections. You know, there have been some people in those buildings that are like, oh, we can't go up there and talk to him. And some of the other staff that I've known a little bit longer, they're like, what are you talking about? That's what he's here for. I'm going up and talking to him right now. And it's just that kind of relationship building that helps the staff feel like they're a part of something. And at the end of the day, that's what I feel my position as a department head is to support the day-to-day operations and to make sure those staff feel good about coming into work every day. You know, we went from one of our divisions where we were turning over a dozen people a year to what, 2 in 2 years now, Ryan, total? You know, that's the transformation we've had. And that's just being there and letting everybody feel heard. But every day is different. Go for it.
What do I want to add to that one? Whoa.
Sorry.
All right.
Great job. That's it, everybody. Keep your house. Way to go.
Even if you're approachable, I still like it's the principal's office when you call. It's not gonna
And I know that feeling is never going to change for a lot of people as much as I want it to.
I mean, I think everyone said it. You know, no days is really you got your plan, you come in and it's gone. I think the no day is ever the same. In my role, I do a lot of working with our engineering staff to coach and mentor them on what we have going on. The engineering staff is very young, so trying to teach them the Oshkosh way of doing things, how to get project designed, bid, constructed, so that here in Oshkosh we can have streets and infrastructure that we're proud of. We do a lot of working with developers looking to develop projects throughout the city, whether it's on the outskirts or residential, redevelopments kind of in the middle of the city as things are continuing to grow and change, trying to figure out ways to get them to be able to get the projects, be successful and meets, the code and the requirements that we have for, our sewer, our water, our storm sewers, our access control into the right of way, things like that. So working with developers, working with community development staff to make sure that we're all on the same page internally about what the project looks like, how they're going to develop it, what changes they need to make to bring it into compliance. And then, as James mentioned, really looking at that long-term picture of what has to happen for our projects to continue the city infrastructure moving forward. We've got a lot of, I don't even know how many miles, but in our 10-year CIP, we still don't have all of the 1800s vintage, so 1890 year installation sanitary sewers out of service. So we're 120 plus years old, and even in the next 10 years, we still don't have that out. So we have a lot of work to do in planning for those projects and to be able to keep our infrastructure reliable for everyone to use.
Matt, if I may, I don't know how long everybody's been here at the university, but anybody who's been here more than about 3 or 4 years, you would recognize Algoma Boulevard before and after.
Oh, yeah, we see what they were doing that. Or that, yeah, all went on. It's like driving glass.
That's one of the projects that Justin gets to help.
Justin did a great job, it's outstanding.
You know, I'll kind of go a little different route and I'll just kind of say our day-to-day is kind of a little bit like organized chaos. You know, you gotta be able to be flexible, think on your feet, you know, we get a full-scale plow as 40 pieces of equipment that go out that have to be, you know, orchestrated. They all have their routes, have to check up on things. On top of that, we'll get water main breaks where we have to send a crew of 5 or 6 guys out to kind of throttle that down, make that repair. In addition to that, we've got our sanitation team that runs, you know, 7 recycling garbage routes out, you know, throughout the city that has to get done. And this predominantly all has to get done within a, you know, about an 8-hour window. And then in addition to that, our central garage staff has got 8 mechanics, and those 8 mechanics are responsible for about 800 pieces of equipment. So there's a lot that we are in charge of. There's a lot that goes into it. I have a great team of managers, you know, underneath me that really assist with that. But I would say that, like James said, making yourself available for the communication. I love what I do on a daily basis. I get to talk to pretty much everybody on a daily basis. It's amazing. The interactions with the people, the public, departments, other divisions, other cities. You know, it's just, again, it's kind of, for me, it's a lot about the people and what can I do to help support them be successful and, you know, whatever they need.
Well, I'm definitely the odd man out here in a lot of ways.
I'm gonna bring you back in, don't worry. You're all gonna be part of the team, the finance is gonna hold the doors.
So as I said, I work for a private consulting firm where MSA, we're engineering, architecture and other stuff. And in that role, I sometimes I serve as a administrator, where if a local government loses their administrator, then I stand in temporarily until they fill that. Actually, I'm just starting that again today in Sherwood. So I'll be that administrator there until they fill the position. Then sometimes I'm a planner, so then I'm working on local government community plans like their comprehensive plans or outdoor recreation plans, things like that. So I'm standing in as working with them on their plans. My other role is writing grants and finding grants for local governments. So sometimes I'm working with the local government on getting information and working with our engineers to get the cost estimates and so forth and then the grant. And when I'm not directly working on a project with the community, then I'm spying on Oshkosh to see what their capital improvement plan says, to see what project MSA can stand in and do. And why they should hire us for the projects that they don't do in-house.
Behind the curtain. All the fumes, none of the squeeze.
So seriously, that's when I'm not working directly with local governments, then I'm working to basically sell MSA services.
So I'm gonna go off screen. I promise you'll know the answer to. Just hearing what you said, it sounds like, and this is something I think, I won't speak to them, but I do think this is what they're looking for, is things that there's a diversity of the work. That you have a job, but that not every day, and all of you sound like it's chaotic, which is great, because you're like, it's not the same and consistent and boring. And that sort of helps that. The other thing, and Bobby and James hit on this. Would you say that like the main push is to make things better? Like all of you sort of hit on that in different ways, but like, is that like ultimately the goal? Any of you can respond to that, but does that sound like, whether it's workplace stuff or like actual like physical improvement stuff, like, is that like really what you guys are after? What you all are after, I should say.
I think it's a combination of, I mean, it's definitely making things better, but it also, I think what often is not recognized is it takes a lot of work to keep things as they are. You know, to not go backwards. So I think it's a combination of maintaining services and systems and improving them.
Well, and a lot, you know, in recent years, we've done, you know, kind of that motto, do more with less, right? Every time we turn around, yeah, right. Everything gets more expensive, and trying to keep the team motivated to, you know, be extremely good at their job and then provide them the tools and the things they need to do the job is, you know, like you said, the continual process improvement, continual procedure improvement, always looking at more efficiencies. What can we combine? What can we do better? You know, again, that's daily basis.
Yeah. Super cool. Anybody else on that?
From a community development standpoint, it really is our role to grow tax base in municipalities. The state of Wisconsin severely limits how much local governments can spend and how high they can tax folks. So one factor that is if we add a lot of growth or tax base into our communities, it will actually increase our levy limits or spending. So it's really important for community development staff to work with, you know, our different departments to how can we grow our city? Where can we grow, you know, our residential and housing? How can we get more industrial? So that's really the only way that communities have the ability to increase their taxes.
I want to do challenging and then I want to close with something interesting. So what's the most challenging part of your day to day? Or the most challenging part of your job? Let's start with James and we'll go that way and then that way. Yeah. At least follow James's stuff.
Okay.
I think honestly, one of the most challenging parts of the job is dealing with people. And I don't necessarily mean staff, although sometimes staff can be challenging, not the ones up here. But the general public can be some of the most challenging. And it comes down to not necessarily understanding how things operate. But, you know, one of the things is, you know, there's a lot of times a belief that, you know, we're in a city of about 67,000. So there's 67,000 people out there who think they knew better how to do your job than you do. So that is one of the challenging things, but it's also, it can be fun too, trying to get them to understand things. You know, I think we deal in a lot of large scale capital projects. You know, Jason mentioned it earlier, a lot of projects coming up at water filtration and wastewater treatment. 3 projects between those 2 plants, we're talking over $100 million worth of construction. That's very challenging to manage. It's very challenging to help the residents understand why we have to do these projects. Matt, we were talking before we started here this afternoon that last night's Common Council meeting, they awarded a bid on a project we have been working on for 20 years.
I did want to make sure I plugged that so that you could plug that. I was like, that's a win, 20 years that made me out. We were talking about that.
You know, and it's been through, I can't even count how many public meetings, public information meetings, listening sessions, committees. You know, and it is sometimes the challenge of trying to explain why we have to do some of the things we have to do.
I guess echoing what James says is the public, it is challenging. And I don't want to scare everybody off because a lot of times these people are a small number. That's loud people that come out and it's a small number because the people are usually okay with it. They're not coming to meetings and yelling. So really big issues now is like battling false information. Everybody's a keyboard warrior and it's putting fake news out there, stuff that's just ridiculous. A lot of NIMBY, not in my backyard. Everybody wants more housing, but actually I don't want it by my house. So
I gotta add it. Did you hear the new ones? Is bananas build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone.
That is a new one.
That is a new one.
Citizens against virtually everything.
Yeah. So it is really trying to help people understand, like, I know that, you know, this housing development's going in a mile away from your house. And maybe you feel impacted, but let's see how it's going to impact the entire community in long term, as James said. So it is very gratifying working with people and trying to help them understand and leading them through the process. Because a lot of times if you take the time, you can turn somebody around, they come in with a pitchfork and yelling at you, where, you know, they can walk out laughing. So hopefully, you know, it's like I said, it's challenging, but it's very rewarding too.
One of the best ones, Kelly, I had was a public information meeting, and I had one of those pitchfork guys sitting in the front row, and he started riling up, and his neighbor sitting right next to him turns to him and said, "Would you shut up? They're trying to help us." So that's both ends of the spectrum. Not a thing. I wish I would have known ahead of time, but that's both ends of the spectrum sitting right next to each other in a public meeting.
Yeah, again, it's same thing with my position. It's people, I guess, to narrow it down more so is the change in the workforce. You know, people have been, I do a lot with industries, so that the people at those industries are changing. You know, you have new workers, people aren't staying at an industry for very long now. So that becomes challenging when you're trying to just explain yourself, same thing over and over, year after year, week after week. to new people, that's a big challenge. That's something I have to get be nicer at, or understand that they're not trying to make you upset. They're not trying to make you mad. They just don't know. You just have to keep with it and just go, okay, I have to keep explaining myself. I have to keep doing this. That's a big challenge.
I had two kind of pre-thought out answers for this. One is people. It doesn't matter if you want a public service or not. James kind of said, well, it's not the people up here. But generally, any staff, if you become a supervisor or manager, it's dealing with people where they're at. You have a plan for people to do things for the day, and you're going to find out that some people are happy to do it, some people are not happy to do it, irritable, whole gamut spectrum of emotions. And sometimes it's up to you as a supervisor or manager to figure out what's going on. And usually it's not something that's happening at work, it's something that's happening in their personal life that they're bringing to work. So that is always a challenge to try and decipher that. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes people are willing to talk about things, sometimes they're not. That makes it difficult. The other one that I thought about deeply, and we actually had a little conversation before we started this, Kelly was mentioning, so I'll throw you under the bus. Regulations and meeting deadlines, regulatory requests of regulating agencies such as the DNR or federal EPA. With the change in staffing, as Bobby mentioned, even at DNR, their staff is getting younger. And the old grizzled veterans that have 20, 30 years under their belt.
That's who they are. They come with a practical wisdom of how things are done, and not saying they skirt the letter of the law or how the code is written, but they have a way of helping you understand how to do it that makes the most common sense. And that's been a struggle with the turnover at some of those agencies, is that the people that are in those positions now don't have that real world experience, and they're very black and white. And it's a challenge to deal with that and to try and come to a consensus that they're happy with and we're happy with, because ultimately they're the ones that make the rules, and we have to figure out how to make it work.
So I would say there's, as I mentioned, I have three very different roles, one in administration, one in grant writing, and one in planning. So I feel like it kind of varies based on that. For administration, I would say the biggest challenge is getting elected officials to understand that their role is about policy making, not operations, to keep out of operations. I'm guessing that I think that I have harmony.
Everybody write that down right now.
They really like to try to get into the operations. So that's the biggest challenge for administration. With grant writing right now, with everything that's going on at the federal level, the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law injected a lot of money into different new grant programs and existing grant programs. Then it got frozen, then it got started, then it got frozen. Then the agreements or the conditions for getting the money has changed. And so everything that's happened in the past year has just kind of put grants into a tailspin. And now some of them are open again, but people are afraid to put into them because it costs money to apply, and you don't know if it's going to get frozen again. So the political environment at the federal level is the most challenging thing when it comes to grants right now. And on the planning perspective, I would say that it's people wanting things that are mutually exclusive. Getting back to what Kelly said, and you have to have development in order to grow the tax base, but you have people who want lower taxes and no development. They're mutually exclusive. So those are the things that I find most challenging.
I'd say it most challenging would probably still be the team, the workers. You get about 60 people under one roof, and you got a lot of opinions. A lot of people, have some, different ways of doing things, and everybody kind of sometimes feels that they're always right. So kind of juggling that to assist them with whatever they can need is. But it's challenging, but it's also sometimes the most rewarding. Somebody comes in down to the dumps, try to help them out, see what's going on, try to turn their day around for them. It's very challenging and very rewarding. I do spend a lot of time on things I don't think you should have to spend time on, well, he did this, they did that kind of thing, and then we get in the middle and now you get to sort it out, and next thing you know, you're 2 hours into an investigatory meeting for something that it's like, why are we even here? But when you deal with people, that is to be expected. And with the people too, it's the citizens, we try to do as best we can, and a lot of times, and again, I don't know if it's a little bit of a change in society, but I do feel sometimes that, good enough is never good enough for a lot of people. We do get a lot of complaints. I think we do a great job as a team. I think everything we do operation wise makes sense, but sometimes we get a lot of negative backlash. And I would say that the negative is probably more than the positive. So when we do get the positive people to reach out, we really share that and take hold of that and really spread that message.
So I guess I concur with a lot of what's been set up here is, certainly the people are challenging on all ends of it. So I'll take a little different route a little bit here. For me personally, and in my role, I would say the most challenging thing that I got to deal with is keeping everything in line. And what I mean by that is, habitually, we've got $40 million that run through the engineering office in construction projects. That's outside of what's happening at the plants for the environmental regulations that those have to comply with. So being able to keep our projects moving, the staff moving forward, knowing what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and then how that all plays together with everything else going on. Because as we said, the Algoma project is great now, but then it was not.
It wasn't your fault. It was a tough pull.
It was.
But it's good now.
But again, being able to work with the community and the impact that it has when their streets tore up, and be able to try to minimize that and deal with, again, the school, during session, whether it's special events, if there's parades or whatever, being able to make sure that our construction projects aren't a hindrance to keeping things moving on a day-to-day basis. So again, agree with the people. I would say kind of a sidebar to that is being able to keep everything afloat and organized in a way that we're impactful, but if you don't notice us, that's the best part.
Ever looked at that point? I've been hoping one of you make them, because I think especially like planning and all the other stuff, like when it goes well, we don't notice it, but the moment it's not perfect, we're all up and on. Is that about? I want to ask that, all things this. I do want to ask about public trust, and like there is a sense that it has gotten worse over time, certainly across a number of different industries. Has that been your experience? Has public trust in you gotten worse? Or has it gotten better in different ways? Is there some things that they're like not believing you at all on, or there's some things that they're like, yeah, they're probably still right about that? Anybody?
I mean, at a high level, I think being as open and transparent is the best thing we can do to continue to build trust. I personally, in my role, don't feel that there's a broken trust, but I can see where that would get that light of day for that discussion. But again, I think being open, honest, transparent, which is what I think we do on a day-to-day basis with the general public, is the best way to continue to build trust back up if there is that lack.
I agree completely, and putting on my administrator hat is for the love of God and all that is holy. When the agendas go out, please, I wish people would limit what they do in closed session. Oh, and it's violating public trust when you see these local governments have closed session after closed session after closed session. And then when you see that the agenda item just states the state statutory exemption to open meetings law and does not say what it's about. That is what I think is, from my perspective, when I'm in local governments, that is what is eroding the trust, because people will imagine what's on there. And I know some administrators that have purposely put things on that are vague so that, people try to use closed sessions, I think, as a way to not have to have uncomfortable conversations in the public, not for what it's intended to be for. So there's my soapbox.
Yeah, it was a solid. Cool.
I'm a little passionate about that one.
Good. It's a good way to ask a question. Last one for you all, and I'm gonna turn it over to the rest of you. What's the most fun or interesting part? We're gonna start with this.
I would say for me, the most fun is being able to see the change. Whether it's a construction project where you go from a washboard to smooth as glass, or even just the impact we make. So a project we've had that is a detention basin project that was in the master plan for Slurpee watershed, which was 10, 15 years. So the plan was developed 10, 15 years ago, and this was the last project in it. It's on the far outskirts of town. It's a very large detention basin. And again, might not see it because it's so far out, but knowing what benefit that has to the residents of Oshkosh, specifically in the Sawyer Creek watershed, really brings me joy to know that makes a difference.
I'd say that one of the best things that I enjoy a lot is the camaraderie of the team, but I would say is what Justin had hit on. The things that get done unseen. Middle of the night, water main break, somebody comes in, somebody has to fix it. We do it without a lot of people even knowing that we were there. Snow plowing, same thing, come in the middle of the night. A lot of times it's cleared, it's ready to go. And even
I saw the.
Just screw with Diane for having her phone ring all the time. It's fine.
No, and even like our trash collection, right? It's one of those services that, it's very rudimentary. It's very, you do a certain part of town, certain day, you can kind of clock where your truck is going to be. But the minute we don't do it, you're really going to notice it fast. And again, that's probably one of the most fulfilling parts of the job. And again, I would say just dealing with the team and the people on a daily basis.
Mine is gonna be a weird one, but that's probably come to be expected now. When I work in a local government and am working on the budget and trying to present it to the public, I always break it down and then relate it to something equivalent. And if you really look at your property tax bill, I'll use the one that I did recently in the city of Berlin when I was interim administration there. The cost of all city services to the local government, to the residents for an average sized home is about $140 a month. And I think people complain about taxes so much, but when you really break it down and say, okay, $140 a month, that's about a cell phone bill. And you're getting snow plowing and road repair and police and fire and parks and all of these things for about the monthly cost of a cell phone bill. And I'll go through and I'll break it down more. And I showed in the case of Berlin, that all of the public safety, police, fire, EMS, that was about the cost of a Netflix subscription per month. And when I break it down like that, to see kind of some spark in the residents who would be upset about you're raising my taxes again, it's like you're paying about Netflix to get 911 to show up on your door. And so when I see that gotcha moment, and sometimes I do, one time I actually broke it down to the cost of a cigarette because the guy who complained the most was a smoker. So it sounds weird, but it's rewarding when you get that, okay, and some understanding. So I guess any time that you can get that understanding is rewarding.
Well, as you can imagine, after 26 years at the wastewater plant, I've had many interesting days. But we're not gonna go into too much detail from that.
Yeah, you're gonna get a weirdest question. The weirdest question was always in the wings, but we'll get there. Go ahead. Sorry.
June 2001, right?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many answers I could give to that question. We have a trophy case of things that have come into the wastewater plant and are lacking. They range from people's dentures to eyeglasses to Lego figures to a whole bunch of things. But no, it really is working with the water, whether it's the clean side, the water, filtration plant, the drinking water side, or the wastewater on the sanitary side. It's the most critical resource there is for human welfare. Not to pick on anybody else, but if the road develops a pothole or a sinkhole or something happens, we just move and go to the next road. If the drinking water plant pump stops, we have enough drinking water in the city for one day. If the wastewater treatment plant, if the influent raw sewage pumps stop, there's no more sewage treatment. So you think about, a lot of people take that for granted, which, we've talked about, behind the scenes, people don't realize what we do. But how critical it is to things that we are responsible for. So think about how often you use water. A lot of people don't think about it, but if there was no water, you would see a societal breakdown within 24 hours. So it's kind of dramatic, but it is.
Did save the fun question for the incident. I wouldn't have this. I have new fears now, though. That is
Well, I've said enough.
Yeah, so my favorite thing about the job, or what I like, is just the unknown. I know everybody kind of hit at it, the first question, but when I come in today, I don't know what's gonna happen. I get a call from a metal manufacturer, I get a call from a plastic former, I get a call from contaminated groundwater, and septic hauler is asking a question. That's the best part about it, is I don't know what's gonna happen. Not every single day is the same. Jason said at the wastewater plant, all of a sudden we have a heavy flow. It doesn't matter what your job is, you're helping. So having all of that that's what I really appreciate about my job.
In community development, we have the opportunity to really shape communities and how they look in the future. We're doing once in a lifetime generation projects. A lot of the redevelopment you see on the river, that was a lot of buildings were taken down, a lot of funds were spent to remediate the site. So it's really gratifying to be able to visualize, what could be there and how that will really impact the community. So just having a part in projects that, will have a profound, positive impact in the community is the reason why I still do this job.
I think for me, it's knowing the impact that we have on everybody's day-to-day life, even if they don't recognize it. We like to work behind the scenes. I don't want to say in the shadows, but like Ryan said, you don't see a lot of what we do. When police and fire respond to something, you see them. They go with their lights flashing and sirens. They want to be seen. We don't want to be seen. We want to get our stuff done. We want it to function appropriately, and the less we're seen, the better. Unfortunately, that also means that we're not understood very well. So we do have to work on changing a little bit of that. And that's one of the things that we do. We work with our communications people to do. But I think, one of the best and most gratifying things is just knowing the change that we've had on our communities. And every once in a while we have those people, Justin mentioned, a big stormwater project, knowing one of those people who runs a business on the downstream ends of that watershed with one of our last big projects that we accomplished, and having that person come up to me and say, "Oh my God, we got all this rain this spring and my buildings didn't flood. Thank you." And that's just the one person who does understand it and recognize it. And there are so many other people that they might recognize, hey, I didn't used to be able to get through this street, but now I can. They don't know why, but that's okay with us because we know that we made that difference.
So this one I want to turn over to you. Got the mic. Are there any questions? Just broke the mic. You gave me two. Go ahead.
I can project.
You're behind the mic though. And you're gonna make me more.
Oof. Sorry.
So a couple of you mentioned 10-year plans, with more people being highly educated with AI, with quicker pace changes in different environments. How long do you think 10-year plans are gonna be 10-year plans?
I think one of the things that I guess we didn't bring up about that is we review those plans every year, and they do change on an annual basis. But certainly, there are a lot of things, especially right now, that are changing with technology that will change how we do things. One of the reasons that we have to have that long of a range of plan, one, it's regulatory. We've talked a lot about the two plants. The regulatory requirements call for a plan that long, but also it's funding. There are a lot of state and federal programs that if I'm applying for money right now, it's a project that's not gonna start for 6 or 7 years because it takes that long to get through their process. So we have to have that long of a plan. We evaluate them every year and they do change every year. I am excited to see how some of these new technologies will maybe change that and hopefully reduce some of these timeframes that we have to deal with.
Anybody else with questions?
Yeah, so one of the things you talked about was how you have to get the public to understand things. Have you started to have experience with like people like in their like early 20s and trying to understand what you do? And has that been harder than like older people, or has it been easier to get them to understand things you do?
I can start. I think it's a little bit of each. I think younger people like yourself, you're more open to change and thinking outside of the box. And that's amazing because in this job, that's what you need to do in all of our jobs. Not everything's black and white. And as some of the folks mentioned, sometimes people have always done it this way and that's the way I want to do it. So that's why I love working with younger people because and that's my advice, any idea you have, throw it out there, something might stick. So, and then just being more, comfortable with, AI and, using, different types of, I just say like, ways to, communicate with people. It's not just sending them a notice in the mail and hope they get it. So I think that with the skill sets that you've had, that you grew up with, I think it's actually really going to be great coming into local government because I do think there needs to be a lot of changes with the way we communicate. There always will be public speaking and meetings and everything, but we have to change the way we get the word out to people, especially if you want to have younger people like yourself, like come on city councils and boards and commissions or work. We have to be able to be flexible. And I think you're seeing some people do that, but I think that, there's a lot of great things that your generation is going to be able to contribute.
And I'll, excuse me, I'll add to that too, is one thing that I notice is, I think I agree is I feel like the younger people are more open to change and also have expectation of change. And I think that's great, but there are also times where it can be more challenging. And one example that comes to mind is I know that there's been this discussion in Green Bay about a rescue shelter for animals opening their doors to let homeless people come in and sleep. And I think it's a great thing, but there's the city of Green Bay had to shut it down. There was talking about shutting it down, and I saw some stuff on YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that where they're talking, the people were ranting against this because, why can't you do this? Of course you should do this. This is the right thing to do. And unfortunately, there's still those systems in place that we still can't. It's not that we don't want to, it's not that it's not the right thing, but there are still some of the things like liability and a lot of other challenges that still exist, and we can't navigate that just because we want to, or it's the right thing to do. So it can be challenging too, because trying to explain that, I wish I could, but I can't, well, why not? It's the right thing to do. So I think there's that challenge yet too, and hopefully the processes and systems catch up. But sometimes our hands are still tied.
One of the things for me that I enjoyed is, seeing just the sense of wanting to learn more. I see that a lot more in younger people than I do in older people. I know, so last year, Ryan, we had a group of third graders walk down to the field operations facility and walk through the facility. And it was just tremendous, just seeing the eagerness and the wanting to learn. And that's one of the things that I enjoy with trying to connect with a younger group. It can be hard to try to make it interesting to get people to want to come and see and learn from us. But we've had some great opportunities. I think, one of the things when Matt first reached out about this program was, I think one of the things I said to him is, yes, this is something I've been trying to find more ways to do. I've been working with one of our high school programs to try to get some interactions. We actually had, where did we have them? We had one of their groups come through. Was that through Field Ops too, Ryan?
Yeah,
The communities program at Oshkosh North?
yes. Yep.
Yeah, so we had one of the programs come through one of the buildings and get to see it. So it's trying to build those connections, and that's some of the hardest part sometimes is knowing who in the schools to be able to talk to make those connections. And that's where I think I've struggled the most, even as I've reached out to some of the administrators in the school districts. Hey, we want to try to get something like this going. Can you help? And you get nothing back. So that's been some of the struggle, but I think the eagerness is just incredible. And I love seeing that.
And if I could add one more thing, and Kelly, maybe you've seen this too, is, you know, I started out my career as a county planner. And when I was doing that, you know, we'd see, you know, what Kelly was talking about with the NIMBYism. And what I said was bananas, build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone. And I feel like that shift, there's a shift going on that the younger generations aren't so individualistic on wanting their, what I used to call a McMansion on 5 acres with their own swimming pool and their own playground. And now you see a lot more mixed use developments going on, smaller lot developments going on, smaller footprint homes, more conscientious about the environment, looking more into aging in place and making much more of a community rather than everybody's little individual McMansion. And personally, I love seeing that shift, even though I live on 5 acres. It was already there when I bought it. I didn't build it.
If there's nobody else, I do want to point out that when we set this up, I wanted to have the DPW folks come in. James was the first to respond immediately. They have been perfect partners with us. Can we get a round of applause for all of them once again? I'm a sucker for letting that class go early, so we're doing it again tonight. Feel free, if there's any more food, please eat it. Please come up and mingle. Thank you for coming. Have a great night. Good luck. If you are in Wissac, on Abby.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.